Hello, my name is Eric Sally. I'm here at Perry Baromedical Corp. And today we're going to demonstrate how to clean the muffler inside a Perry chamber. So the items that you're going to need to do this is a little wire brass brush that normally comes with the little toolkits that come with the chambers when they're first installed. If not, you can purchase one online through our website. The other items I would recommend are to use some type of protective gloves, and then in addition to that is some paper towels. Doesn't really matter what type, and then some dish soap. Dawn preferably is one of the ones that we use, and you can mix that into a spray bottle of about a percentage of 100-to-1 ratio with some good clean water in case you have water that has too many minerals or calcium or something like that. You may have to go to a bottle of water instead. So let's get started. Next step now. I've got my gloves on. The reason for that is to protect myself from the possibility, in case I have any cuts or scrapes or scratches on my body, on my skin, because the muffler inside the chamber is very dirty. It can be very contaminated with bacteria and other foreign objects, because everything that is inside the chamber with the person breathing and being treated is going out through that muffler and out the exhaust. So with that, you're definitely going to not want to just use your bare hands to clean it and prep it to go back inside. So removing your watch, removing anything out of your pockets, cell phones, keys, anything that's going to be loose, pens, wallets, all that kind of stuff needs to get out of off your person, so that it isn't going to accidentally fall into the chamber and possibly scratch the acrylic. And also what I'm going to do next is get myself a section of the paper towel. Another thing you could use in place of paper towel is a little washcloth of some sort that's nice and clean. And the reason for that is so that you have something to hold the muffler with and to protect the chamber in case you accidentally drop the muffler and it falls down. You've got it nice, secured, and wrapped, and it's not going to go anywhere. And then you bring it out. And you would only do this as one chore only. You don't go inside the chamber then to go do something else along with cleaning the muffler. Just so that it's like, okay, I got the muffler out. You know what? I'm going to go in here and do some other cleaning. The possibility, the risk of you accidentally hitting that muffler, because it is very heavy. It's got some sharp edges on it. And if you accidentally hit it, whack it, and it falls off and hits the acrylic, then you've damaged your acrylic. So with everything off my body, I will also take my shoes off, because again, you do not want to bring any contaminants or possibly dirt that you may have tracked into the facility that might be stuck to your shoes, that might fall off and go into the chamber, and then later on when you're cleaning the chamber, possibly pick up some of the debris, and it will then end up scratching your acrylic. The other thing too is definitely also too, putting your gloves on too. If you have jewelry on that can't come off, diamond rings and other stones and stuff like that, or with a lot of decoration on your rings and jewelry that won't come off your fingers, it's protected so that, again, it will not damage the acrylic. So inside the chamber, you'll lay on the stretcher assembly and pull yourself into the chamber, grabbing either your traverse rods or the center cabling trough here. You have two little thumb screws that will, again, they're only supposed to be finger tight, and you will loosen them up so they come undone, slide the cover tray back, and now you exposed your muffler. And you can also at the same time check your little grounding wires to make sure that all of them are intact and that they are not been pulled or strained or unattached. Now, so then with your towel, I will put this underneath, and again, this should only be finger tight, No wrenches are needed. So unscrewing the muffler, laying it down inside my towels, wrapping it up, and then pushing myself back out. So with muffler in hand now, we're safely out of the chamber. I'll unwrap it, and what you'll see is this item right here. There's some Teflon tape on it. The muffler part itself, the little screen here, over time will become very white sometimes due to the linens from the bed or from the gown that the person is wearing that's inside the chamber. So all the lint will accumulate onto this. What also accumulates also too is the oils from the body of the person, and the skin cells will also impregnate it onto this part. So that is what we're going to remove, and we will go into our washroom and I will show you how that is done. Here we are at the sink and getting ready to wash our muffler. Now, the way that you can tell if it's definitely is needing it, and it may look very clean, and may like, well, you know what, it looks fine to me. I don't think I need to wash it. One number of ways to tell whether or not it needs it is if it holds the water like a cup of water and it doesn't percolate and sweat through quickly. Water should go in, water should drain out rather rapidly. And if it doesn't, you definitely know, okay, it needs to be cleaned. And regardless, you have it out, you might as well just wash it anyways. The other ways to know too is when you would be doing a daily. Some people do daily, some people do weekly. Is what we call the bypass test of pressurizing your chamber up to 3 ATAs, and then doing the exhaust bypass, or some people call it emergency dump. And you have a time limit of approximately 2 minutes that it should then, from 2 ATAs, get down to approximately a half a PSI in that time frame. And if the time is longer than that, the first thing we look for is possibly a dirty muffler, because that's where all the air has to go out. So if it's restricted, then it's going to slow your times down. So just taking some water and bringing it over and filling it up, you can see how nothing's happening right now. It's just holding it like a cup of water, and nothing's percolating through. It's just very lightly. So it's needing some cleaning. So with that, you can, a number of methods. You can take your little spray bottle of soapy water and soak it down. Just soak the whole thing, and then with your scrub brush, you would be scrubbing the outside of it. No need to do the inside, just only the outside. And if need be, repeat this as necessary. Another thing that some people like to do, they will take a cup, fill it with some water, put a little bit of your dish soap in it, just a couple of little drops into it. Take your little, if you want, stir it up, mix it up. And some people then will just let it, after they scrubbed off the heavy lint, then they will just sit it down and let it soak for a little bit, and just basically soak in like a dirty dish. You just let it soak there for a little bit, then come back and just scrub it some more. And then when you're done, you want to thoroughly rinse it. So with the clean, fresh water, inside, outside, and you can see now how fast the water is draining out of this. See how rapidly it's draining. It's empty already, and that's what you want to see, is it percolating quickly through the filter it's not a filter, excuse me, the muffler. And you'll do this several times to just make sure you get all the soap and debris out of it. Now once that's completed, and it seems to be rinsing very well, you don't see any more soapy suds, is now to dry it. Okay, now drying it, you take your paper towels and just again, all on the outside, nothing on the inside, because you do not want to get paper stuck inside of it or accidentally forget that you've got paper inside of it. Some people, after they towel dry it, then they will set it down and just let it air dry for X amount of time and then put it back in the chamber. I recommend just keep taking paper towels and keep hand drying it to where the paper towels become not wet anymore, and then go ahead and put it in the chamber. The reason why, if you forget about it, it's sitting out and someone else is to run the chamber, and all of a sudden they say, hey, my chamber's sounding very loud, sounds very different than it's ever before. They'll know why. The first thing I always say, check and see if the muffler's inside. Maybe somebody's removed it and forgot to replace it. So the little bit of condensation that's left on this, when you put it back in and do your testing or your phantom dive before you run another patient, will dry this out and it will go out to the exhaust and not do any harm to the system. The other thing that you see on here, what I also too, some people like to blow dry these. That is a method. However, remember, if you're in a small room and you're using compressed air, you're going to need safety gear for that. You know, eye protection, ear protection possibly. The other thing too is, now all we've done is just use soapy water to clean this. There's still the risk of possibly, if you then blow this with air, compressed air, you may itemize the particles to where then you can breathe them in, and if there is something possibly that can cause, you know, harm to you, if you have a very sick patient or something like that, you will be breathing in what they've been exhausting the whole time, because I mean, you're just talking soapy water. There are some other ways to clean these a little bit more thoroughly. One of them is to possibly use an ultrasonic bath wash. And there, you can heat them up a little bit to lukewarm. If you have one with a temperature setting in it, and then you, again, using your soapy water. Some people will use their antiseptic spray and disinfect it that way, and run it in there, and then take it out after it's ran and cleaned, and then they will back rinse it and dry it out and put it back in. I mean, if that's your protocols, then for your facility, then that's another way of cleaning this, is an ultrasonic bath. And but at the same token, it's not something that is not being rebreathed into the chamber. It's constantly, everything that goes through here is going right out of the exhaust. So another wear and tear item on here is the Teflon tape. The reason for that's on here right now, is to help with the taking on and off into the chamber rear enclosure for the threads to not gall up or become problems with them unscrewing and screwing it in and out. The Teflon tape acts as a lubricant. Now over time it will get hairy and worn off and needs to be replaced. So to do that, again, you can just take your brush, and scrub it off like this, and just remove the excess of it. And you can pick up the Teflon tape at hardware stores, some plumbing shops and stuff like that will carry it. So it's just regular Teflon tape. It's not medical grade or anything of that nature. And I just take it and I put it on, hold it with my finger, and then I start wrapping it in a motion that is like this, and I'm doing it, as you can see right now, what is I would consider a clockwise motion, and the reason for that is when I'm done, I will give it like 2-3 wraps, and I will also not get the first thread. You do not want to do something like this. If you overwrap it over to the edge, what will happen is all this access here, when you screw it in, will unthread itself, and it will go into the chamber exhaust system, and it will possibly cause some problems with the chamber running correctly. So make sure you do your 2-3 wraps with it, and then just give it a big pull, and it snaps right off. You can just coat it down, and again, with your gloves on, this is good because the threads on here are a little sharp. If you had bare hands, you might get little scratches, little cuts from the threads. And again, do not drop this, so you don't damage the threads, so that it will screw back into the chamber. If you were to wrap this Teflon tape the other direction, in the direction that you're threading it back into the chamber, what will happen is you start to thread it in, it will unravel itself. So that's why we do it in the motion that we're the opposite of how we're threading it in. The tape is wrapped in the other direction. And so with that, there is some different time frames as to how often you should do this. So how often should you clean this muffler? Our OEM manuals recommend that it should be monthly, taken out, inspected, and dry cleaned with a towel, and just wipe off the exterior, and then reinstall it. And then annually take it out and wash it how we just demonstrated. Now again, that's just a general thumb of rule there. This can vary depending upon how many patients you're doing in a day, in a week, in a month, your patient load, and also too the condition of your linens. So a lot of patients, old linens, or sometimes it's a lot of times the newer linens that will cause this buildup of excessive lint on the chamber muffler. So you may have to find that you need to do it more frequently, taking out and washing and cleaning it. There's no harm, no foul if you clean it more often than what's recommended. Recommended is just that's the bare minimum amount. You can clean this more often. You can't damage it by over cleaning it, but you can definitely have bad results if you are not cleaning it at least by the minimum amount of times. Okay, so now what we're going to do next is go ahead and reinstall it back in the chamber. Here we are back at the chamber now, ready to put our muffler back in the chamber. The shoes are off, jewelry, phones, all that stuff still has to stay away. I got the muffler back in a towel, all wrapped up. So again, it's not so that it will accidentally hit the acrylic and do damage. So I'm going to go inside, only hand tighten it, just to be snugged in there. It's not to go in with any wrenches are required at all, none are done. And you're just going to put it in hand tight, push the cover back over, and the two little thumb screws will go back in, and again, those will just be finger tight. And then that will be completed. So here we go. Back inside the chamber, open up my towel, put it back down on the bottom, screw my muffler back inside. And righty-tighty, clockwise is how it will tighten itself back up. Again, just hand tight, that's it, we're done. Slide the cover back over and put our little thumb screws back in their holes. Finger tight, done. And out we go. So thank you for watching this video. That concludes how to service the muffler inside the chamber. And If you have more questions or want to see more of our products, visit our website at perrybaromedical.com. Thank you.